Howdy and welcome to Aggies with President Mark Welsh. I'm Susan Balabina and I serve as the Chief of Staff to the President. Here we are, President Welsh, midway through March. Can you believe it?
No, it's incredible how fast it's going.
It really is, and spring is a really exciting time for our campus. As you know, there are a lot of exciting things happening. We have students getting their Aggie rings. We have award ceremonies for our very deserving faculty and staff that are going on in the spring. We've got big event and muster, and we'll talk about both of those in a little bit. And, you know, we also experience a unique phenomenon outside our office doors during the spring. Rows of students waiting to take their picture on the porch of the J.K.W. Williams building. I think it'd be fun for us to start photobombing, just go out those big metal stained glass iron doors and kind of sneak attack some of them. You up for that?
Yeah, we did some of it last year, actually.
I thought you did.
It was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's a big hit.
I think I shocked some people, but but the great part about it is it's a really happy time for people. They're looking forward to graduation. They're looking forward to the future. They're figuring out what life holds next. Everybody's finishing up job interviews, trying to decide for our seniors what the next step is in their career. It's an exciting time.
It is, indeed. And there's a lot of exciting things happening regarding governance of the university and the system. And by the time this podcast airs, we may have a new chancellor named by the Board of Regents. But one thing that we already know has happened is we've had a new regent named by Governor Abbott. Kelly Sullivan Georgiadis has been named as a regent. She'll take Mike Plank's place, who's rotating off the board. I know Kelly pretty well because when I was in Ag and Life Sciences, she served on one of our advisory boards, and I just find her to be an incredible choice by the governor for this opportunity. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm really excited about getting to work with her. I don't know her as well as you do. I had a chance to meet her last year. She's a wonderfully gracious lady, obviously very accomplished, former student, class of '92, graduated with a bachelor's in communications. She's also a graduate of the TCU Ranch Management Program, so she's a fourth-generation cattle producer. She's got this blend of agriculture and education that I think will be phenomenal for our Board of Regents. She's the executive vice president of Sullivan Brothers family of companies, and she's a co-owner of the Santa Rosa Ranch and the GKG Land and Cattle Company, and a board member of a number of things and cattle growers and cattlemen's associations around Texas. So she's obviously very accomplished. She's very well known, and a lot of people who know her have been raving about what great attributes she'll bring to our board. So we're excited about getting her on board.
Indeed. Accomplished is the word I was thinking when you said it. I mean, she's a successful business person. She's just so accomplished in so many ways and has a lot of interest in not only Texas, Texas A&M, but she also knows the agencies well and their impact. So she'll be a great addition to the Board of Regents. Some other interesting appointments have happened. We are in the midst of a lot of leadership searches for deans and other positions, vice president for student affairs, but one search that we have brought to a close and announced is the commandant search. We have a new commandant, Lieutenant General Chip Bierman. Why don't you tell us a little more about him?
Yeah, I'm very excited about Chip Bierman joining us this summer. He is currently still serving on active duty in the Marine Corps. He is the Director of Plans and Programs and Operations for the United States Marine Corps right now. He's a former Marine Expeditionary Force commander, which is a big deal in the Marine Corps, where he commanded Marine forces in the entire Pacific area of operations. He's got a couple of combat tours as a Marine Infantry Battalion commander, one in Iraq, one in Afghanistan. 37 years of experience in the Marine Corps. Impressed everybody he met when he came to campus. I think he's going to be a phenomenal addition to the team here. He's a VMI graduate. He's not an Aggie, so he brings an outside perspective, maybe a different view of how to approach some issues that we have here on campus. And I think he'll give a fresh look at the Corps that'll be very helpful for us. But I'm looking forward to people meeting him and getting him on board. He's very, very excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, we're excited too. As you know, you allowed me to help with the search on this one and serve as the search committee chair. And I thought all four of the finalists who came to campus were just stellar. And General Bierman really just came across as someone who's a really deep thinker, person of depth with a lot of great experience, but also just really kind and lovely to interact with. So very much looking forward to his arrival. On that note, before we stray too far away from the Corps, you've talked about the Corps Cadets on this podcast before, and that them being kind of the spirit animal of Texas A&M and how important they are. And you recently also commissioned a study, a quick look assessment of the Corps Cadets, and you've got some decisions that you're announcing related to that study. Why don't you talk a little bit about why you asked for that study to be done and what some of the outcomes were?
Yes, ma'am. The quick look assessment we kind of did for the rest of the university about a year and a half ago. We had not done the Corps yet, so we decided to do the Corps last. And this is just completing the quick look assessment for the whole university. I think the important thing for the Corps right now, especially with this turnover to a new commandant happening, is it's a chance for all of us to take a deep breath, step back, and for people in the Corps, people around the Corps, people who work with the Corps, people who support the Corps, to have a voice in what do we want the Corps of Cadets to be at Texas A&M University. It is so critically important to the success of the university that the Corps be phenomenal, that it's time to just take a step back and ask ourselves, what do we want it to be going forward? What are the things that we cannot afford to lose? What are the things that we should amplify? What are the things that we may have lost a little bit and need to reemphasize? And what are the things that we're just missing that we can add to the Corps experience for the men and women who serve there? And that's what this is all about. The decisions coming out of this are actually fairly straightforward. There was a number of questions raised about things like Corps structure, Corps organization, size of the units. We have multiple chains of command within the Corps. Do we really need to do that, or can we integrate them and create a better training experience for our cadets? How do we keep a focus on the kind of training that will benefit people, whether they go in the military or they go into industry or business or whatever it is they want to do next in life? And how do we make sure they have the same kind of experience that they share now with their fathers, their grandfathers, their great-grandfathers? That spirit animal part of the Corps that's so important here at A&M. And so that conversation needs to continue, and there'll be some specific taskers that come out of it related to those kind of things. There's also a couple of decisions out of it that have to do with just refreshing the Corps. The Duncan Dining Hall probably needs a facelift, if not a rebuild. It's old. We need to look at, can we share that facility with other students in that part of campus? Can we have a dual use facility? Is it time to move the Trigon from the old building it's been in for a long time and put it a little more central to the Corps and refresh that facility? There are things like that we need to be focused on, and so all that is going to come out of this study.
Great. Well, it's an exciting time for the Corps Cadets for many reasons. It is also an exciting time for spring sports. So very recently, our Aggie men's track and field team won their first SEC indoor championship title. That was pretty exciting stuff. But many of our teams and student athletes are performing well, and I know that you are a huge Aggie sports fan. So why don't you give us your take on spring sports?
Yeah, I'm really excited about spring sports. Again, same thing happened last year. We had a great spring sports season. I think if you just look at the teams that are off to a great start, basketball beat the number one team in the country last night. They had a couple of games where they were struggling a little bit, and then last night everything came together again for them. They're already the hardest working team in the country. And they stood beside each other through that little tough spell, came back and beat the number one team in the country right here at Reed Arena, which was a phenomenal win. Women's softball is, I think, 20-2 or something like that, ranked number 4 in the country. Women's tennis won the national championship last year. They're at number 5 this year, and I think they're going to make another run at it this year. You mentioned men's track and field winning the SEC indoor championship for the first time ever. That's a huge deal. Yeah. Congrats to Coach Pat Henry and his team. And some of the people on that team, individual champions. Let me make sure I get these names right. Distance medley relay team, the 4x400 relay team, won the SEC championship. We had 3 individual SEC champions. Blake Harris won the heptathlon. Ahmad Robinson won the 400 meter, and Sam Whitmarsh won the 800 meter again. just phenomenal performances. And then on the women's indoor team, Winnie B won the individual SEC championship in the long jump. We also had an SEC championship in the SEC swim and dive meet. Jackson Beaushire won the platform diving contest, which is something I know you used to do when you were younger.
Carefully, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't even imagine jumping off a platform and
there's no
trying
reason
to spin around in the air. I would kill myself. But it's just been a phenomenal spring sports season. And we got basketball still carrying over from the winter and still playing great ball. So it's a great time to go watch Aggie athletics. I encourage everybody to get out there and do it.
And you know, you meet these young people, you have the fortune to meet some of them, and they just blow you away. You know, we met Sam Whitmarsh during the football season, and I was so impressed with him. And then to see him run that race at the SEC championship was just incredible. These young athletes are really not only great athletes, they're great people, and we're lucky to have them here at Texas A&M.
Yes,
So.
Sam running the 800 meters really reminds me of me in my heyday.
Yeah, I bet.
A lot like that.
Just like me diving carefully. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, this has been an exciting talk we've had, but the most exciting part is yet to come. So, next up, we will welcome our two very special guests, two incredible student leaders, Big Event Director Becca Dawson and Mustard Chair Abby Kerckhoff. We'll take a quick break and then welcome them to the show.
Did you know KAMU Studios offers 14 original shows? All of these locally hosted productions are featured on our local shows, series, and podcast webpage. Topics cover Texas A&M, art, politics, music, books, gardening, community issues, and more. Find what interests you on our website. Then listen on your favorite podcast platform. Go to tx.ag/KAMU FM shows and start listening today.
Welcome back. We're back at ease with two incredible guests this morning. We've got Becca Dawson is with us this morning, along with Abby Kerckhoff, both members of the Fighting Texas Aggie class of 2025. Thank you guys for being here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Becca, we'll start with you. Where are you from? What'd you do in high school? How'd you end up at A&M? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a senior industrial distribution major from Houston, Texas. Went to Stratford High School. I kind of grew up doing student council, always being really involved in school. Something interesting is my high school actually had something called the Big Day, which is essentially a miniature version of Big Event that a teacher who had gone to A&M brought to our high school. So that's how I initially got involved, and then kind of carried me on through college.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what attracted you to the big event once you got here.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. And now you run the big event.
Yes, it's kind of crazy to think where I came from and now where I'm at right now, but it's been a really great learning experience, and I've created so many great connections, and it's just been really great.
Yeah, tremendous. We'll talk more about the big event in a minute. Abby, how about you?
Yes, so I'm a society ethics and law major from Houston, Texas. In high school, I was a swimmer. I participated in water polo, and now my physical activity is pretty much limited to the rec once a week and visiting the ducks in Aggie Park. But I learned a lot about servitude, like Becca, from high school and having those experiences, and that kind of created an interest and a desire to continue serving in college. So I'm really grateful for those experiences and, the small leadership experiences that you get in your childhood and your teenage years that prepare you for leadership experiences in college, like the ones that we're currently serving in. Yes, sir.
So talk about those leadership experiences and things you've been involved in here at A&M.
Yes. So I'm currently a member of Kappa Delta sorority. And so that has been a very unique experience, getting to be involved in a sisterhood and serving in different capacities in that. I served on our logistics team for recruitment, and that was very joyful. I've also been a member of Traditions Council as a freshman, and then I served as a fish camp counselor during my time here. So I dabbled in a lot of different traditions and a lot of different things before I started serving in muster. And ultimately, I was drawn to muster and wanted to continue serving to where I am now.
Okay, and now you're chairing the mustard committee.
Yes, sir.
Big job.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's an exciting time of year, too, for you, I know. Starting to pick up. Becca, tell me about the big event. Tell me about getting your arms around it when you first stepped into this role. What's the biggest challenge for you?
Oh, gosh. It's been I've learned so much from it, and it's been such a great I've been able to grow professionally and personally. I started in the big event freshman year, or technically in high school with the big day, but freshman year here at A&M, I knew immediately had to get involved, and so I started out as a staff assistant my freshman year, where I got to really go out into the community and make those connections with residents, which was really special to me, and I just got to hear so many incredible stories and meet so many amazing people, and so that kind of carried me on, and I wanted to step up into the next leadership role, and so I became a committee member my sophomore year, and I was able to kind of lead some staff assistants while also doing some specific tasks. I was a digital coordinator on the operations committee, and then my junior year, I decided to apply for the executive team, and I was the operations executive, so that's all things logistics, all things tools. We have like 50,000 tools, which is a lot. And so a lot of logistics and coordinating with that. And then I had such a great experience on the executive team that I decided to apply for director, and it worked out. And I was so happy about it because it's really cool getting to be the director, because not only do I get to see a lot of the big picture of the things that we're doing, it can get kind of tedious of like you're doing all these little small tasks, but it's important to zoom out and really think about the big picture of all these residents that are being served. I mean, we serve, this year it's looking like about 2,500 residents of the Bryan College Station community, which is really awesome. And then we're looking at, our goal is 18,000 student volunteers, so we're really excited about it. But being director has just been an incredible opportunity to not only get to train my skills and grow so much, but also getting to have my team of my executive members and the rest of our internal members. We have an internal organization of about 400. And so, but specifically with my executive team, just getting to train and equip them and get to grow them as leaders. I always say it's kind of like I'm more of a manager of people right now. I really get to develop them, and they're such an amazing team. And so they've been working so hard, and I'm just so proud of them.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, if somebody has never heard of the big event before, which is probably not likely here on campus, but if somebody has not heard anything about it, describe the big event to us.
Yeah, so the big event is the largest one-day student-run service project in the nation. So our mission is to say thank you to the residents of the Bryan College Station community. If you kind of think about it, we come into this town really like 9 months out of the year and make grocery line super long and traffic just crazy, and so it's our way of getting to really connect with the residents. You also don't really get to see the residents much if you're not going and visiting their homes like this. So it's a really great opportunity to just make those connections. We're surrounded by such an incredible community, and those residents have such amazing stories to tell, and they really care about the students of Texas A&M, and they want to get to know us. And so, yeah, we do. So basically one day in March, on March 22nd, all of the volunteers go out into the community and do things like yard work or cleaning up around the house, washing windows, anything like that for 4 hours. And then they come back and drop off their tools. And ahead of time, we have a whole kickoff ceremony with live entertainment, vendors, speakers, with our check-in process. And then they grab their tools, go out to their job sites, and then bring it back. So it's an exciting day, and it's just a really great way to serve the community and be able to say thank you.
Yeah, tremendous. Mm-hmm. How many hours a week do you spend on this?
Oh, gosh. I would say probably close to like 20 hours a week, maybe more. It doesn't feel like a job, though. I feel like if you're involved in something where it really feels like a burden to do something like that, it can be really hard, but I've never felt that way. Going to big event meetings, going and having one-on-one time with my executives, and just working on things has never felt like a chore to me. It's something I'm really excited to do, and I feel very, very passionate about. And so, yes, it is a very large time commitment as director, but it's such an amazing opportunity. I wouldn't give it up for the world.
Yeah. Fantastic. Congratulations on getting the job. Abby, what about muster? What do people need to know about the ceremony as April 21st kind of starts sneaking up on us here?
Sure. So I usually start with saying, muster is one of our oldest and most somber traditions here at Texas A&M. And so I like to kind of start with explaining the history, because that builds context for what our current muster day on campus looks like. So muster actually started out as a field day. It was a patriotic holiday to celebrate Texas winning its independence from Mexico. April 21st is San Jacinto Day. So it was a commemorative day. It was joyful for the Texas A&M campus back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And as we get closer closer to World War II, it became more somber. It was also a class reunion day, and as Aggies are going off to fight wars and they're not coming back to campus, the tradition gradually, like I said, became more somber. And it kind of turns into what we see today, which there's over 300 musters around the world. And it's where we honor Aggies who've passed away within the year. So the largest muster is held here on campus. And we gather in Reed Arena, and we read a roll call of Aggies within the campus community who've passed. And we answer here when their names are called off and read, and their family members light a candle to represent that Aggie is here with us in spirit. And to also kind of commemorate the origins of muster, we also have the 53 Union class. This year, the class of 1975 come back to campus, and we offer them a respectful homecoming, a barbecue, and just kind of celebrate what it means to be an Aggie, our shared core values, our shared community, and just honor the beginnings of the muster tradition as a patriotic celebration.
And what drew you to the muster committee as a way to serve?
Well, when I was younger, I think I had a couple of grief experiences that were very profound and witnessed profound grief experiences in others. And I think I learned this to be true, and I've heard it said that grief lasts longer than sympathy. And knowing how isolating grief can be, I felt really compelled to, develop myself and be there for people who were experiencing loss. And as a fourth generation Aggie, I was trying to find my place and a way to contribute to the Aggie spirit and contribute to the legacy of our university. And I found kind of my desire to serve A&M and my conviction and like helping people who've gone through loss kind of combined through serving the muster tradition. And so as a freshman, I applied to be a muster host and host our students who lead families through the night of muster at Reed Arena to make sure that all of their needs are met and that they're seated properly. And through that experience, I just gained like a love of service and helping the Aggie family on that evening and wanting to continue throughout my time at Texas A&M and definitely long after.
Yeah, very cool. I suspect those first 3 generations of Aggies in your family are pretty proud of what you're doing. Yeah, I'm having another one of those I'm not worthy moments. Becca, what about A&M? Just Texas A&M in general makes the big event even more special.
A&M is such a special school. I grew up in Aggie. My mom went to A&M, and then both my older siblings went to A&M, so it was really in the family. I knew it was the only place to go, and so, but I think it's so special that the big event is at A&M. It was founded at A&M in 1982 by our founder, Mr. Joe Nesbaum, where he just kind of got a group of his friends together to clean up a cemetery, and he still says to this day he cannot imagine that it's become this large. But I really think that's because of the tradition here at A&M and the community that we have. Like I said, A&M is such a special school, and we're surrounded by so many Aggies, not only at the school but also in the community. Or a lot of residents I've met who have been like, oh, well, I didn't go to A&M, but like I feel like I'm an Aggie because I get to be a part of this tradition. And so I think that because we have the community that we do, it's been able to grow into such a large event and a large tradition, and a very large thank you. And that couldn't have happened without the community that we have, and just everybody here at the university that's been so helpful towards us, and just really valuing that tradition, and using our core value of selfless service and especially leadership too. That's been very unique and special to the big event.
Yeah. You see a big event looking the same 25 years down the road, or how would you change it?
Oh, wow. I think it's going to have to change with how large it's growing, but I think those will be good changes, and it's definitely, I mean, it's grown so much. It started out with just like 5 students that got together to on a random Saturday to clean up. So it's definitely going to have to make some changes as it grows, and we have in the past few years. Our internal member number has grown tremendously. We're at about 400 right now. It used to start out with just a few people that were planning it. So I think we'll definitely grow a lot, and there's going to be some changes, but it'll all be for the best, and I think that we can just serve more and more residents.
Is it important that muster continues to change and evolve, or is it important that muster stay the same?
I think both in a way. Like as I talked about, muster has evolved to fit the needs of the Aggie family. It started out as a day of celebration and built camaraderie on a young campus, and then over time began to serve the Aggie family by being a day of remembrance and reflection. So I think muster will change as we change and to fit the needs of the university and the Aggie family. But the core elements of camaraderie, unity, remembrance, and reflection, and being there for our fellow Aggies will never change.
Yeah. Okay. March 22nd.
Yes.
The big event. It's sneaking up on us.
I know. It's the year has flown by.
Any suggestions for people who still want to get involved?
Yeah, so our signups are closed, but you can anybody can attend our kickoff ceremony. Like I said, there's going to be vendors, live entertainment, speakers. It'll be a really great event. And then you can even see the students going out and grabbing their tools and going off to the job sites. But next year for residents, our signups will open in mid-October and be open until February. And then our student volunteer signups will open right at the beginning of the semester. So there's definitely still ways to be involved, and especially for students with our internal membership. So we have about those 400. So we open signups for our committee members right when school opens in the fall, and then our staff assistants will be right after that. So there's tons of ways to get plugged in and get involved, but I really suggest everyone go to the kickoff ceremony because it's a really cool event. You get to hear some really great speakers, and also just seeing the impact that we're able to make. It always amazes me the amount of students walking from Aggie Park to Lot 97 where we distribute our tools, because it's just like masses of people just coming and coming and coming. And it's crazy to think like, wow, all these people are going out into the community and serving. And you're really able to have kind of like that moment in your heart of, wow, like I really feel like I'm able to embody the Aggie core value of selfless service. And it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah. So kickoff event is March 22nd. What time and place?
It'll be at 8 a.m. is when everything will kind of start, but our kickoff ceremony will officially start with our speakers at 9 a.m. And then it will end around 9:30 with a yell practice. And once the cannon goes off, everyone will go to grab their tools.
Okay. In Aggie Park?
Yes.
Okay. Good enough. Yes. How about muster? April 21st, sneaking up on us, not quite as fast,
sir.
But it's coming. How do people get ready for muster?
Sure. So I'd love to talk about a couple of events surrounding the muster day. So I think one of our favorite events that occur on campus is the reflections display. That's in the MSC flag room, and that's when we invite honored families who are honoring their Aggie loved one at campus muster to build a display for their loved one of treasured objects, of pictures, and it gives all of us the opportunity to get to know the honorees better and to put a face to the name and really understand the lives and legacies of those that are on our roll call. And so that is a wonderful opportunity to get involved in the muster tradition. We also have a letter writing station, so it allows students to write letters to families and kind of offer their condolences and also share their appreciation for their Aggie loved one. And so that's a really neat way to be involved in the muster tradition. That'll open on April 14th, and it'll go all the way to April 21st during MSC hours. Also, on the muster day, we have a couple events on campus. The muster day traditionally starts with a flag raising ceremony in Academic Plaza. It'll occur this year at 6:51 a.m. with sunrise, and it's a really beautiful and respectful beginning to the muster day. Then we will have our camaraderie barbecue, and this is our event with the class of 1975, where we host a barbecue and give them the opportunity to meet our current students and offer them a respectful homecoming and the ability to meet current students, engage in meaningful conversation, and talk about Texas A&M, the school that both of us love, and just remind them that they're always a part of the Aggie family and that we're so excited to have them back. So that's a free event for students and former students. We'll have barbecue, canes, we'll have the Yell leaders and Miss Rev and Fish Drill team. And it's just a wonderful celebratory event. I always like to tell students to bring your friends, invite your professor, sit down and enjoy a meal as Aggies, kind of as muster was intended to all the way back when it started. Then, of course, that evening we'll have the muster ceremony in Reed Arena at 7 p.m., where we will have our keynote speaker, this year Lieutenant General Michael Downs, address the Aggie family. And we'll also have the the reading of the roll call, where we'll answer here for those in the campus community who've passed away within the year. So those are ways that you can be involved in the muster tradition on campus. But like I said, there's over 300 musters around the world. So in any way that you'd like to contribute to the tradition, whether it's just texting your close friend from Texas A&M as a former student and saying that like you were grateful for your time here, or reflecting on what it means to be an Aggie, there's so many ways to muster.
Yeah, be there. That's the most important thing.
Yes,
isn't
sir.
it? Yeah, for either one of these events, just be there, so you can see what it's all about and feel it for yourself, because it's really spectacular. Super. Let me ask you one last question, Becca, about big event. Name, in your experience now with a big event, since you've been here on campus, can you give me one moment that really stands out to you where you went, okay, that's why I do this?
Yeah, so I actually had a special moment this year where I had gone my sophomore year when I was a committee member. One of my roles was kind of helping our staff assistants if they randomly needed their partner couldn't go on a job check. So we have these job checks where we go ahead of time to the residents' homes to look at the property, see what needs to be done, see what kind of tools need to be done, they need, and sign some paperwork. And so my committee year, I had been asked by another staff assistant who actually wasn't under my subcommittee, but she had kind of randomly, it was a friend, and she had asked me, oh, do you have time to go on this job check last minute? And I was like, oh, sure, of course. I'd be more than happy to. And so I went with her and met the sweetest older lady, Miss Sadie, and she was just so kind, and she lived by herself, and she just needed some help with her garden. And she sat us down, and she told us her whole life story and how she came to A&M or College Station. She's not an Aggie, but like I said, with a lot of residents, they get to feel like an Aggie and really get to feel part of the tradition by having students come out to their house at big event. And so I got to meet her and just felt that really special connection. But then because it wasn't kind of under my jobs that I was over, I didn't keep track of the job number or the residence information. And so I was like, oh, I hope I get to see her again. And then my senior year, this past fall, we do something called the Fall Service Project, where essentially it's a day for our internal members to get to go out into the community and serve the residents. Because on the actual day of in March, we're very busy running the whole event, and so we don't actually get to go out into the community. But we have this day in the fall, and so I was going on a job check ahead of time for one of those residents, and it happened to be the same lady who had a special connection with our past director. And she had reached out to me, and she was like, could y'all please check on her? I kind of haven't heard from her in a little bit, and I really just want to make sure she's doing well, and that, and I know she would love to meet everyone. And so I pulled up to the house with my associate director, and as soon as I got there, I immediately knew, oh, I've been here. And I was like, I know exactly who this is, and she's such an amazing person. And I walked in, and immediately she remembered me. And it was just that special moment of like, you can really see the impact that it has on these residents, and they love just forming those connections, and it's just an incredible opportunity to really get to know them. And so she immediately remembered me from 2 years ago when I had gone to her house for, I think, about 30 minutes. And so that was just really special. And so we sat down, she made us cookies, and she just told us all about her grandkids and her whole life. And so that was just a really special moment for me, and seeing how impactful it can be to meet these residents. They remember us, and they remember our stories too, and that means a lot to them, and it means a lot to us too. And so it was really I was crying when I was leaving, because I was just like, I will be coming back here. And I still text her every once in a while, and she always wants to check in on how I'm doing, and it just really shows that the members of the community really care. And even though there's no exact connection, it's random that I just happen to be a student that went to her house on a job check, and we've been able to form that connection and build a relationship. And that was a really special moment for me, and I still stay in touch with her, and she'll be getting served on the day of, and so very excited about that.
Good. I suspect it was a pretty special moment for her too, Becca. Abby, how about you with muster? Is there one moment in the last few years that really stands out to you?
Yes, sir. think about at last year's ceremony, I think every year for everyone that attends muster, there's so much meaning in it, and there's so many things that I find meaningful and contribute for my desire to want to continue serving. But the thing that stands out to me is at the time I was serving as an executive, and so on the night of, we're a part of ceremony logistics, so we're getting everything ready, we're preparing, running around Reed Arena, preparing for these families. And I remember walking on the floor, and on the front row of the ceremony we call them like the blocks, is our Silver Taps families, the families who've lost a current student. And previously that day, I had met the parents of who had lost their child. And I saw them, and so I stopped and just wanted to let them know that I'd visited their daughter's reflections display. And I was so impressed. I learned so much about her, and I found her story just to be so incredible. And I kind of knelt down. They were sitting, and I sat next to them, and I just told them, like, I just wanted to let you know, like, your daughter was such an incredible Aggie and such an amazing person. Like, I'll never forget your daughter. And they just kept repeating that was their only child. She was so precious to them. And just being able to say, I'll never forget your child is something that sticks with me and builds within you a desire to want to continue serving. Because it feels like that's the least I can do, is to continue to serve in this capacity when the suffering is so great, especially like the suffering of your fellow Aggies. So getting to be there for them in that moment and just acknowledge the grief and acknowledge the magnitude of the loss that they'd experienced, in even some small way, and seeing how grateful they were. It was so touching. It just feels like the least you can do is offer your presence, offer your help. And I knew, like, kind of in that moment, I already had a really strong convictions about grief and the power that muster has to heal, comfort, and inspire. But that was kind of the moment that's like, I want to do this in some capacity for the rest of my life and offer that same comfort to someone else and let them know that the legacy of the Aggie that they loved won't be forgotten by me, and it won't be forgotten by any student and anyone who attends a muster ceremony.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Becca, what's next for you? When you graduate, where are you off to?
I'll be graduating in May 9th at 2 o'clock. Very excited about that, which also happens to be my birthday. So it'll be a big day. And then I will be starting work in Houston at Crawford Electric Supply. I'll be working for an electrical distributor, doing technical sales, so kind of doing their training program with that and seeing exactly what I'll end up doing. But I'm very excited about it. I've done 2 internships in that field, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. How about you, Abby?
Well, I can't tell you my exact graduation date. I know I graduate in May, but when I got the email, I was kind of devastated. I feel like I'm being kicked out. I was so offended by getting this email, but I'm so excited to graduate. And so after graduation, I'm really excited to share I'm getting married. I met my Aggie sweetheart. He's currently undergoing undergraduate pilot training in the Air Force. And so I plan on joining him and supporting him throughout his service career, and hopefully continuing to serve philanthropically in some capacity. I want to take everything I've learned about muster and the wonderful muster committee members that I've had the privilege of serving alongside, and those leadership experiences, and applying that to another service organization in some capacity.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I am sure of is that the two of you are going to make a difference in this world for the rest of your life. Yeah. Thanks for everything you're doing here on campus to make it better for people to live, work, and learn here. Thanks for the work you're doing in a big event, Becca. Thanks for the work you're doing in muster. Both of these things add to the heart of Texas A&M, and I can't imagine better people to be leading the effort than you two. It's just been an honor to talk to you this morning. Thank you so much for being here, and let us know how we can help you, okay, as things get close and you guys get a little more frantic in the efforts to get this done right. And I'll see you at the big event.
Yes.
I'll see you at muster.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, ma'am. And I'll see you in a minute.
KAMU Studios loves hiring students. We develop aspiring media professionals by providing hands-on experiences and letting them create for audiences of all ages. Recent graduate Maria Moctezuma.
You can come in with 0 experience and come out of here a professional. I definitely wouldn't have gotten a lot of the interviews or opportunities I had if it wasn't for this job.
Eager to learn more? We'd love to connect. Email us today, kamu@tamu.edu.
Welcome back to Aggies, President Welsh. Wow, what a great conversation you just had with 2 phenomenal Texas A&M students.
Yeah, those are pretty amazing Aggies, aren't they?
They are.
I tell you what, every time we get a chance to talk to students on this campus, I walk away just blown away by their sincerity, by their talent, by their commitment to making a difference here and in the future. They're phenomenal.
Yeah,
Just phenomenal.
you just nailed it at the end when you said whatever you guys do, you're going to go make an impact in the world. You're going to make a difference. We're in great hands.
Yeah. We're just not worthy.
Right, we're not.
They're pretty incredible.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. Listening to them makes you want to be better. Speaking of, have you ever been out to a big event site and worked?
I haven't worked. I did. I have been out to the big event sites. I actually, the first year when I was at the Bush School, a couple of years I was at the Bush School, we had Bush School students who participated in it, and I would go visit those groups as they were working. And that way I didn't have to hurt myself, but I could get street cred for being at the big event.
Yeah,
which was very cool for me.
So, speaking of hurting yourself, I've been a couple of times, and in spite of what I'm about to say, I think next year the president's office should volunteer and go out to a big event work site because I've done that a couple of years, and both times we were at schools that needed help. And the first year we built a community garden, and I discovered that everyone I was working with at that site was smarter than me. I mean, these kids, some of them were engineering students and being very precise with exactly everything we did. I finally discovered my gift was just to move the wheelbarrow full of dirt. But it was painful the next day. Yeah, and then the next year I went out to another school site, and we were with the women's soccer team and cleaning out a courtyard and painting on sidewalks, games for the kids to play. It just really is such a great time to see our students in action and making a difference in the community. So next year, we're out there.
You and me.
Yeah.
Back-breaking labor.
Yeah, we could do a live podcast from a site.
We could. That would probably be better than us trying to fix something for one of the residents.
Agreed. I agree. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a trick question.
Sure.
Do you remember the very first text you ever received from Susan Balabina?
No.
Well, I do.
I apologize. I should remember that.
I'm very disappointed in you, quite frankly. Let me tell you about it. I didn't know you very well. You had been over to my office at that time in JKW, and we had met about something, and we had exchanged phone numbers, and we'd had a fairly nice meeting. Then we got to muster, and you were the speaker. And this was my text to you the night that you spoke at muster. And I didn't know you very well at all, but I just felt compelled to text you, which I'm sure you got thousands of texts that night. But the text said, I remember it vividly, it said, "Thank God I watched this on KAMU at my home because I was on the couch sobbing." You were an incredible muster speaker. How hard was it to write that speech? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Did you work on it for hours or weeks? I mean, a lot of people who are listening will have heard this speech because people Google you, it comes up. And for people who haven't seen it, I hope you will really take time to watch it. But tell me how you wrote that.
Actually, that was easy. I think muster is just an incredible thing. The whole concept is an incredible thing. The idea that a university rallies around itself and each other once a year, every year, worldwide, is really a testament, I think, to the fabric of Aggie land. Mm-hmm. And so I've always believed in it. I've always felt it strongly. I've been to muster in 12 different countries now. I've had the chance to go to muster in war zones. I've had the chance to answer here for friends all around the globe, and for family members.
For your dad.
For my dad, for my sister, it's just a privilege to attend a muster ceremony. And the opportunity to speak at one is another level of privilege. It doesn't matter where it is. And being asked to speak at the campus muster ceremony was to me, just an incredible, incredible honor, especially for a non-Aggie.
Yeah.
And so I felt I was nervous. I'm not usually nervous when I speak. I was nervous that night because I didn't want to let Aggies down. Not at muster.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you did. You know, it was an incredible honor for you. It was an incredible privilege for all of us who got to hear that speech and hear you talk in the vulnerable way that you did. I mean, it literally, I mean, I remember it so well, just sitting there crying and thinking, man, I'm glad I'm not in Reed Arena because my makeup would be everywhere and I would look like an idiot. But
I'll tell you, the weirdest thing about that speech was when you step up to the podium and the way the lights were that year. I don't know if it's the same every year. You can see the feet of the people in the front row. The auditorium's dark, but you can tell there's people in the front row. You can't really see people in the crowd. But when you step up to the podium, because of the way the spotlight was rigged, you see nothing. You're looking into the abyss. It's just black. And so you're talking into the black hole, which is very offsetting. I've never experienced that before. In fact, there was one time during the speech where it wasn't particularly an emotional part for me, but at one point I thought, my gosh, I'm talking to my dad.
yeah.
He's like right there. And I almost got emotional.
Well, you also told the story in the speech about the very dark night, right?
Yeah, it was a very different environment, though, to speak in. It was something.
Yeah.
But what an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an honor.
Well, you did well.
Thank you. Well, yeah, you heard Abby here. I don't think anybody's going to risk letting Abby down. So I wish Mike Downs all the luck in the world this year at his muster presentation. He'll be as honored as I was, I know.
Right. Well, let's get to some viewer questions.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. We've got active, engaged listeners submitting questions, and they're all for you. So, tell us, what is your favorite Aggie tradition and why?
You probably would think I'm going to say muster. Actually, I'm going to say silver taps.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
And I think the two go together. I think they go hand in glove. Silver taps is where it starts. And I think the reason silver taps is probably my favorite is because of its simplicity. I love the silence of silver taps. I love the fact that thousands of people come together without saying a word. They're there for one purpose, just to honor their fallen Aggie. I love the fact that the families don't know what to expect. They really haven't been to, most of them haven't been to a muster yet. Some have, but not all of them. Many of them have never been to a silver taps, and they have no idea what to expect until they experience it. And it has a profound effect on them. The fact that all of these people would come out at 10:30 at night to honor their child who's now gone is remarkable to them. There was silver taps last night as we do this filming. One of the mothers of the students we honored just afterwards said, "This is remarkable." That's exactly what she said. She was kind of speechless and very, very moved by the entire experience. And she just said, "This is just remarkable." And so they're coming back now for muster. I don't know if they would have been otherwise. It's just it's the entry into the world where they realize that Aggies really will not forget their child.
Yeah. So I think it's important to note we have worldwide fans all over, watching this podcast, like my mother. For people who've never been to silver taps, kind of quickly explain what exactly happens.
Silver Taps is a monthly ceremony where we honor any student, faculty member, staff member from our campus who's died over the last month. And the families arrive early. They're welcomed by members of the Traditions Council, students just like Abby and Becca, who work specifically on silver taps. They welcome the families. They host them when they arrive on campus. They bring them to the event. They visit for probably 45 minutes to an hour ahead of time and gather the family together, tell them what's going to happen, and then escort them out into the middle of Academic Plaza At a few minutes before 10:30, the lights on Central Campus go out, and students start to come from dormitories, study spaces, whatever they were doing, and just fill Academic Plaza. The core is always there. The family has walked out into the center and sit right in front of the Sol Ross statue on chairs in Academic Plaza. And then I have the privilege with my wife Betty of standing behind them, and just observing the ceremony from there. At 10:30, the Ross volunteers begin entering the Academic Plaza. They kind of appear to the family. If you're standing behind the family, the Ross volunteers appear out of the crowd, and all of a sudden they're just there in their white uniforms. It literally is like ghosts gliding out of the dark. And as they come out of the crowd, they go into a very slow, in fact, maddeningly slow ceremonial two-step. It's a slide step. And you can just feel the family leaning into every step, wanting it to go quicker, because it's hard for them. And that tension really builds as the Ross volunteers come out to the center of Academic Plaza and form in position for the 21-gun salute that honors their fallen son or daughter. After the 21 guns, or as they do the actual 21-gun salute, the family who's been warned that it's coming has been given earplugs. The first volley invariably surprises them, and you can feel them react pretty aggressively to that first volley. And then the emotion hits them during the second and third volley. And then it goes quiet again, and you can feel the grief kind of settle in. You can just feel it. And then Silver Taps plays from the rooftops nearby. And after 3 iterations of Silver Taps, silence comes back. And now that grief is like a weight. It is crushing. And everybody around the family can feel it. And then the Ross volunteers go back into their ceremonial slide step out of the center of the Academic Plaza and eventually disappear. The lights come back on. Students start to disperse. And for the first time, the family realizes how many students are there. They're always surprised when they start to hear the movement, and they turn and see the thousands of people who are behind them, around them, on the sides, starting to head back to their life on campus. They don't realize how many people are there until that point in time. And some students always hang around so that when the family gets up, if they're interested, they'll come over and talk to them. There's usually always 50 or so who hang around to meet the family and give them, their well wishes if the family's interested. And then they head back to their life. But they've been changed because they know that A&M is not going to forget their child.
Yeah.
It is an incredibly moving event.
Yep. It's really special, and I want to note I had a feeling you were going to say Silver Taps was your favorite Aggie tradition because you talk about it, and you've invited deans and head coaches and other people to come with you to that ceremony because you know how significant it is and how it just captures the magic of Texas A&M and how we care about each other as a family. So great. Final thoughts as we wrap up this podcast. Anything else you want to share?
Big Event and Muster are 2 signature events here at A&M. Muster in particular. Big Event is a great event, but Muster is at the heart of the place. And I think my biggest takeaway, once again, is the quality of young men and women we have leading these efforts on our campus. Becca and Abby are incredible. And they dedicate themselves to getting these jobs done right. They have incredible teams supporting them. And then they get unbelievable support from our staff and faculty members here on campus to make sure they get it right. I would encourage everybody to participate. You can't feel A&M if you're not there. So go to the Big Event. Go to Muster. We'll see you there.
Absolutely. And what a great way for us to start our day is to get to talk to students like them. It's just we're really lucky. So
Yeah, we're unbelievably lucky.
some of our listeners could be lucky if they submit a question and we use it on air. So you can get one of our At Ease coffee cups if you do that. That's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, cool.
So do that. Go to tx.ag/atease and continue watching and listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
And gig 'em.